Welcome to this lecture on understanding the world around us. In this lecture, we will try to investigate how the world around us really works. There are some startling revelations and facts that may prove an eye-opener for many of you, so please do pay attention. About 200 years ago, extraction of coal and the development of steam engine paved way for the Industrial Revolution. About 100 years later, the discovery of oil in Pennsylvania, USA, propelled mankind into a new age, namely the oil age. The discovery of oil revolutionized our transport. The rich energy density of oil allowed us to travel further and faster on land, air, and sea. The world shrunk and the markets got globalized. It wasn't just the transport, but the discovery of oil led to the discovery of gas fields. Both oil and gas took our energy use, and in particular the use of electricity, to a new strata. Running water became common, buildings got electrified, heating, air conditioning, and refrigeration systems came into households. Appliances for recreation, communication, and for carrying out daily chores became ubiquitous. Not only the energy use, but consumer goods also grew exponentially. Other than the need of energy that came from fossil fuels, to make goods, there was also the requirement of raw materials. The bulk of the raw materials came in the form of polymers or plastics, which were also a byproduct of oil. Plastics not only started replacing wood, metal, clay, leather, and ceramics, but also helped us in making entirely new products that were unthinkable using traditional raw materials. Bags made of cloth and paper were replaced by polythene bags. Clothes were replaced by polyester. Plastics started appearing in all white goods. Perspex replaced glass, and tarmac replaced clay bricks for road. Just recall in your mind a car from 100 years ago which had mostly metal parts, and look at a car now. From the dashboard to the headlight covers, from the trims to the steering wheel, all are made up of different types of polymers. Today we are surrounded by products that are the byproduct of oil. These include plastics, resins, waxes, polyester, and even the tarmac on the road. It is safe to say that the modern world and its infrastructure has been carved and shaped by oil and fossil fuels. Apart from transport, consumer goods, and the usage of energy, there is one more thing that is driven by oil. It is the food that we consume. Our planet now produces enough food to feed more than 7 billion people. If we look at the population growth over time, we see that the discovery of oil coincides with the growth sprout in the last century. The exponential population growth is a result of food availability, and this large quantity of affordable food only became available because of the use of artificial fertilizers. And artificial fertilizers which use ammonia only became feasible to make because of methane gas, which is yet another product of oil. Today, the food that we eat harbors the huge amount of energy that went to produce it. Other than the fertilizers, pesticides, and usage of farm machinery, the processing of food requires more energy, which again comes from fossil fuels. The food is packaged into plastic bags and transported around the world. We are importing bananas from Philippines, apples from Europe, oranges from South America, and tuna from the Pacific. The food that we consume often has thousands of air or sea miles of transportation on its watch. It has been reported that for every calorie of food that we consume, there are 9 calories of hydrocarbon energy that is spent for putting it on our table. That is a startling fact indeed. The lifestyle of the modern civilization is heavily dependent upon oil. We are consuming almost 90 million barrels of it every day. Our transportation system is bellowing CO2 and other gases at an alarmingly high rate. As a result, we have ushered in the age of anthropogenic climate change. There needs to be a paradigm shift in our way of thinking. Our reliance on oil has pushed us into an artificial culture that is far removed from organic and natural way of life. This synthetic life that we lead will have to change drastically to prepare us for the post-oil era. Marion King Hubbert was among the first people to point out that oil is a finite resource, almost half of which is already being explored and consumed. And therefore we need to make this period, our present age, the age of transition to the post-oil era. It is not just the way we are eating and living, but also the way that we are working that has fueled further emissions. Our workplaces and the places where we live are separated by several miles. In the UK, for example, the average commuting distance by a person is over 40 miles. In the US, the average commuting distance is over 50 miles. Suburban sprawl has exacerbated the daily travel. All of this has been possible because of oil. Previously, it was unthinkable for people to live in one city and work in another. The challenge that we face is great. Let's break it down into 4 distinct areas of resource consumption to help our understanding and bring focus to our efforts. These areas are as follows. Number 1, energy. Number 2, transport. Number 3, food. And number 4, consumer goods. We need to focus on each of these areas to make a realistic and a holistic impact. Several researches have been carried out for a low-carbon future. As a starting point, a good guideline to follow would be to live and work locally and to consume locally sourced food and goods. This greatly reduces the transportation emissions and hence the negative environmental impact that comes with it. It is easier to lead an organic way of life individually and slightly more difficult to achieve it at an organization level. There is this question in workplaces which leads to skepticism that if we switch to green measures, would the organization lose its efficacy and outreach? The answer is negative. There are businesses that have thrived implementing green policies and practices. And this is because these organizations are able to meet the customer's expectation who are much more conscious of their environmental impact than the clients of yesteryears. If every organization fosters a culture where rampant profiteering is not made at the cost of environment, then we can achieve a lot. This lecture was inspired by Michael Ruppert's documentary The Collapse. I would advise students to watch it in their spare time and also learn about the peak oil theory by M. King Hubbert. Hope you found this video lecture informative. Thank you for your attention.